Skål!
Skål! Hey, what are we doing?
It's dry today.
It's dry, it's cool, we're cooking.
It's not 90 degrees. Very exciting.
It's been a long time since we cooked for everybody. We want to cook, and it's not pork loin.
Not pork loin.
We're trying something I don't think ever actually done. I mean, definitely not on camera.
Not on
I don't think
camera.
we've done a camp. So what we're going to spatchcock and spit roast a chicken. Yeah, I know we've spatchcocked them and grilled them, which when you spatchcock, you flatten it out, and it makes everything cook evenly and a little more quicker. I don't know. I know from an early meal, which we took our inspiration and decided to do chicken, an early meal, of course, by Daniel Serra and Hannah Thunberg.
Hope we're saying those right.
I hope so. We're not going to use paprika. Daniel said that that's not period.
Correct.
Well, although he said that about the sausage, I'm assuming he meant in general. But.
Yeah, paprika comes from another region.
So we're going to season it with whatever else we have. We're going to spit roast it. We're also going to do sort of porridge, I guess it would be classified as.
Yeah.
What do we have, bulgur?
Yeah.
We have bulgur.
It's what we
red
could get.
bulgur. Not too sure about
I don't
Viking
think
age Scandinavian.
Wheat grain is there's.
I mean, we know there were bulgurs,
right?
Right.
But
The Swedes
it's what
found
we
the
had in our
Slavs and the
cupboard.
bulgurs, so yeah.
It's whole grain,
We're
so
gonna cook some of that. So we're gonna start with our stock. So for getting our stock ready to cook our grains, we're gonna use chicken bits and chicken pieces to make a chicken stock. So we have our pot with water. What are we putting in first?
probably the gizzards. I forgot the cabbage again.
You want to run and grab it?
Yeah, I'll run and grab
Alright.
the cabbage.
I'll do this and talk a little bit.
Okay.
Little movie magic. So, if you've never done a chicken, they come with little bags of gizzards. Sometimes the bags look different. They're stuffed in there. Always remove them. I shouldn't have to say that, but I had a cousin who didn't with a Thanksgiving turkey and roasted it in there. Don't do that. Pull it out. Even if, heaven forbid, we say use everything. If you don't like gizzards, if you're not going to do anything with it, pull it out, throw it out. Don't leave it in there. But be aware it's in there. It used to be you got the gizzards and the parts from the chicken. These days they just throw some stuff in there. I'm kind of digging through what we have. Usually we get a good neck. This feels like a little chunk of a neck. Usually you get the neck. I'm upset we didn't. Although I've seen neck in stores more now, so it's becoming popular. They're saving them. Yep, that's definitely a neck. That's going in our pot. So we're going to start by cooking. You can roast and braise your pieces and parts, not so much the gizzards and the whatnots. Those you would just want to boil the piss out of. For things like necks, and if you're going to make a stock and you have leftover legs, pieces, or bones, you can roast them first and really bring out a lot of good flavor. We're just going to go ahead and boil everything today for our stock. So the stock is going to be what we're going to cook our wheat in. So we want to give it flavor. You can just boil water and cook it. You can throw a little salt in there or a little seasoning or cook it plain. It's dealer's choice how you like your wheat, your stock. Think sort of not necessarily oatmeal, but yeah, oatmeal, It's a plain grain, you season it, you flavor it any way you like. Or, what else would that be like? Like cereal. You can throw bananas in there, you can pep it up, do what you want. It's entirely up to you. So the other thing we're going to put in our stock before we get to prepping our chicken, well, this is prepping the chicken. There goes the juice I was trying not to.
I got it.
I'm going to cut the wings right off. Cut that right out.
That'll make good stock.
Yeah.
Wings make good stock. For being small, they have a lot of flavor.
Yeah, these are some big wings too.
They are. So,
in period, how big were chickens? Were they like the store-bought
probably,
chickens?
I know they're smaller than store-bought chickens because modern chickens are more engineered. They'd be more like a heritage chicken. They were period though. But maybe kind of that size, because that's technically a roasting chicken. They aren't as big, but usually you would have eaten the roosters or like the old hens that aren't really doing much for you with egg laying anymore. Because eggs were your big product out of chickens.
Well, yeah, a live chicken, a live hen was worth more alive. You get your eggs out of it, and eggs just keep going and you keep eating them. Or baking, cooking, just eating. That's in general, and we know that from pioneer age.
Yeah.
Again, not having done a ton of research as usual, because, you know,
we wing
not
it.
that bright. In period, I would assume it's the same way. Same thing with your goats, your sheep. They're more useful as wool and milk than just as meat. We know in the fall is when they'd slaughter things, so they might have preserved fowl and birds for the winter instead of trying to keep them all alive. Or just let them go, and, you know, in the spring you have frozen chicken. It's mostly just going to boil down and be fat in the stock, but it's going to add a lot of flavor. If you're just making a stock to have stock or soup, I wouldn't throw this in there. That's mostly just going to become fat and come on the top. So we're going to throw it in there because we're going to cook wheat in there, and it's going to add a lot of flavor and deliciousness. Put those up. Throwing all this in there, we're going to make a good stock. I'm not going to pull any of this out. I'm going to cook the wheat and everything right in there. As I said earlier, I love chicken necks. They have so much flavor in them. Sometimes if you're doing this, they fall apart, get up in small bones. Just something to be aware of if you're cooking grains in it. It might be small bones, something to keep in mind. It's just easier than trying to pull things out, right? They're not going to strain their stock in their kitchen sink through a sieve and then cook their grain in the stock.
You keep all the good
They're going to
stuff.
do this. Add the flavor, and then there's going to be some meat in there, and we're going to throw it in there. So, kind of a trick, we threw some parchment paper on our cutting board for the chicken bits, so we're not cross-contaminating and getting everything icky. So, got our cabbage. It's cabbage period.
Yes.
Yes?
Not modern cabbage, but yes.
They had a cabbage.
They had a wild. Starway.
Alright, so we're doing what some people would call a peasant chop. Essentially what I'm doing, I'm leaving it big. Because we're putting it in early. We're going to boil the ever-living hell out of it.
Your cabbage holds up.
Cabbage will hold up, and it still might mush up, but we're going to leave it big so there's some texture and flavor and goodness in it.
Yeah.
Alright. Pull our skewers out of here, because we're going to use these. You want to, if you're doing skewers, and we'll get into it later, you want to soak them first, they don't just burn.
Yeah.
This
You want that in the garbage bag?
No, this is organic. This will go to nature. Please hold. I'm going to go throw this in the woods. Closer, you can see we have a cast iron pot. If you're braising or cooking, or if that's all we were doing, I would just fill it just over our food with water, and then put it over the fire. It'll cook down, reduce, and get good flavor. We want to boil this down, so I'm going to use a lot more water. So I'm going to fill this almost to the tippy top. We're going to fill this. We want all this to boil. And we want some water left to cook our wheat in. And there will be more on that later. Our beautiful picture by someone.
I'll put the link in the description.
We'll put the link.
I
So that's going to start our stock where we're going to cook the bulgars in. We have the lid.
Of course.
And we have our fire. We'll talk more about that later as well. Our fire nice and high because we want this to start to boil. Another thing we're using, we usually see us use S-hooks, which are kind of a reenactorism. Reenactorism?
We have more evidence of reenactors use them more than we have evidence for.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
They were a thing.
I think later period, and I think for a few reasons, I think it came about in the reenactment community, because in reenacting, people reenact various things, and you have people reenacting blacksmithing and learning how to blacksmith. Making chain is a pain in the ass.
Making S-hooks is a good...
Making S-hooks is easier.
It's a learning project.
You can take some bar stock. I think a lot of beginning smiths still make S-hooks as a first project.
Usually.
And you can crank, and like anything, if you want to buy a big chunk of steel because you want to learn how to make a sword, you need money to buy that steel. You're going to make a bunch of S-hooks out of bar stock, sell them, save up. I think that's how it became so popular in the reenactment community. You can't say it's an ease of use and people are using them because they're easier, because what we learned from using this chain is so much easier.
Yeah.
This is not a period handmade chain. This actually came with our tripod, and we'll show a little bit of it later. This is a new tripod. We didn't buy it from a smith. We didn't buy it from one of our friends. Remember, we have 2 spit roasters that act as tripods. We have a giant tripod, all handmade by smiths and friends, and we got this thing off Amazon, and I don't like hawking Amazon stuff. I enjoy this. I actually wanted a cheap, shitty one I could leave up here and not worry about if it gets stolen. So,
Yeah.
what we've learned from, I'm not recommending you go on Amazon and buy this thing. I still recommend supporting local businesses and buying local, but buy the chain. Go with the chain, not just the S-hooks. Who is it? Feed the Ravens. Feed the Ravens has handmade chains, and that's I'm saving up and going to take out a second mortgage on the house to buy one. They also have chains that are just meat hooks, and we'll get into that in another video because I am getting us one of those. Alright, so we're going to get this on the fire and commence it to burling. So, back to our chicken. Again, this would be in period in Viking Age Scandinavia. This would be an old hen or a rooster. So the idea came from there, which recommends spit roast, well, mentioned spit roasting, the recipes for spit roasting. We also referenced and looked through Eat Like a Viking by...
I don't know.
We don't remember, and we
Link
apologize.
somewhere.
Well, we'll put up the graphic of the book and mention your name. We apologize. We love your stuff.
It's a great book. It's a
great
fun
reference. We
Instagram
looked
to
in there.
follow.
The interesting one in there is in that recipe actually calls for parboiling first, which makes a lot of sense. You parboil, you render some of the fat, it takes less time to roast. We almost did that. Another book which references a lot of parboiling is the Foxfire series, the first book in the Foxfire series, which Ulfr Thorbjornsson gave me a copy of, and I sat on it and then I read it and tore through it, and I love it and I recommend it. We'll do a whole thing on that. So what we're doing today, and we keep talking about these books, is neither of them.
Nope.
We're not parboiling, we're not just spit roasting. We're going to spatchcock it first, which when you spatchcock it, it makes it one even flat sheet or more even. So you get even roasting and even heat. I don't know about evidence for this in period, but we find it easier. I'm sure someone did it. So there's a few different ways to spatchcock. I've seen people cut through the breastbone. We're going through the back, and you can either cut through the middle of the spine. We're going to take the spine out and then throw it in our pot. But we wanted to get that on the fire and boiling. So that's going. We'll lift the lid and get that going. So this knife will do it.
I think so.
Ooh, it is. Okay. So I'm just cutting down the right of the spine and feeling in and cutting and feeling in and cutting. So now we have half. You can, even doing it down instead of the middle of the spine, you can do it just like that. So you have one side that's kind of a little floppier. But I'm going to finish cutting that out. Gotcha. So, yeah. Good luck
That's
with
it.
that. So we'll throw that in a minute. Did goof up a little bit, maybe?
That's okay.
We'll make it work anyway. We
got
always
sticks
do.
and twine.
Yep. And this, I was going to say, this is a little frozen still. It actually makes it easier to cut.
Yeah.
That's a trick my mother taught me. If your meat's a little frozen, it doesn't flop and move away from the knife. Your knife is pushing away from things. It keeps everything in place, makes it a little easier. So now we have a floppy chicken. Yeah, we've never really done this, and that's kind of why we wanted to do it on camera.
Yeah.
We wanted to show everyone that we're screwing up. No, we wanted to show, sometimes people do things and they make it look easy, and we wanted to get outside of our comfort zone to show that none of this is easy.
No. I would almost like you had wrap them like that, and then we'll stick a skewer through here.
You want to skewer first or spit first? Let's spit first so we can see where we need the skewers.
Okay. Okay.
Where are you going?
Where's the spit? Oh.
I moved it closer for us.
Well, thank you.
All right. I'm gonna shove it in there. We'll see maybe if that works. I don't know. Okay.
Actually, yeah, because that might hold that bone in right there.
Yeah.
Oh, where's the other one?
Let's move it closer again, but I don't know.
Oh, right there. That's actually caging it pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah. These dogs, so the dogs are what they call the hooks that go on the spit, and we have plenty of a couple sets of iron ones. These ones came off of we love spit roasting so much, we have an electric one for our grill at home. That's where these came from. I don't know about period or anything. They have 4 tines instead of the 2, so for doing things like this, they cage it in there real nice.
Yeah, and it's the ones that came with the set are nice, but they're kind of big, so doing something like this, it can be a little tricky to get it to stay.
The weights are still uneven, but we'll show you how to compensate for that. So what you can do at home, I mean, not that we've done it before too with other things, we're shoving skewers in there in various places against the bar and other things to help hold everything together and make sure nothing's going to flop or fall off.
The hardest part about chicken is it does get floppy, is the only way to describe it.
With anything, any meat will shrink as it cooks, right? The juices are cooking, the liquid's cooking, and liquid evaporates. So as that evaporates, your meat's going to shrink. So no matter how well you have it in the beginning, it's going to shrink and fall off. You learn that doing whole goats and whole animals. You tend to wire them to your spit, and then as they shrink, they get floppy. You got to tighten everything down. So the skewers help. They don't prevent that. They help alleviate some of that and hold it in place as it shrinks. You can always add more skewers later. We have a mix of dill and salt. So we're going to use some dill salt. Chicken can take a decent amount of salt. It can be salty. This is kosher salt, and I think there's some garlic in there and potentially onion. And we're going to start with a fair amount. And again, we're flavoring the outsides of the skin, so we're flavoring that the meat shouldn't get too salty. If you're worried you've used too much, a little later as it's roasting, you baste it with something. Throw a little beer on there, throw your meat on there. Non-alcoholic, and you can use some red wine vinegar or even just white vinegar.
Cider. Cider works really
cider,
good.
I forget cider does come in non-alcoholic varieties. I forget that sometimes.
Would you flip that over?
Of course.
Yeah, we've had some good luck basting with cider.
Oh yeah.
Well,
hang on, buddy. The
Thrim's
dog's
excited
making
about the
noise.
chicken too.
It's coming your way, bud. You ready to go on the fire?
I think so.
You want to try to follow me with the camera?
I will. Give me just a minute.
Yep.
Chicken hands.
Oh yeah. What do we think? Is that good on the distance?
I think so.
All right.
Worst case, we lower it later. But those coals
Yeah.
are pretty hot, so.
The slow roast, I'm going to get the fire going more over here and make sure that's actually boiling. We have some stuff underneath. We want that to smolder. We don't want big flames underneath, because you'll burn the outside and the inside won't be cooked. So we're going to get the fire going more, offset under here, so that'll boil, and that heat will help roast this without burning this. So we got some browning going on the chicken.
It looks nice. It even looks nice on this side. I'm surprised.
Yeah, both sides. We seem to have a nice
Yeah.
heat going on. I did this earlier off camera, just quick, kind of out of habit, didn't think to film it, where I shoved my hand over here to see the kind of heat coming by. That's something you can do to see what's going. Again, we want it low and slow, so you shouldn't burn yourself. If it's too hot and it hurts, it's too hot. So that's your measurement. So
But
we're going to flip it.
if it doesn't hurt at all, you need more heat.
Yes.
Or if you don't
wanna-
feel it,
You don't feel it, you know it's too low.
I'm gonna flip it.
Give it a flippy do. So yeah, we got it starting. This isn't our final flip. It's not do one side and then flip. We're gonna flip it a couple times. We might go for the edges. We'll see and play with our sticks. And we're gonna check our pot while we're here. Probably won't be able to see this. I'm not gonna lift this too high. We're gonna take a peek. And again, it's hard. We can't show what we're looking for. Essentially, we just want to make sure there's water still in there.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah. Do we want to stir it, or
Um,
let me take the lid off more?
yeah, we might want to add a little more water now.
Okay, we're in business. Oh,
Yeah.
and it's boiling.
That's looking good. We'll
Oh,
let it
yeah.
pinch more water now because we want to make sure we have enough hot when we're ready for the barley or the grain, whatever we're adding. The wheat.
The bulgars. We're cooking bulgars.
Yeah. But that looks good. That cabbage is cooking down nice. The wings are starting to come apart.
And the water's starting to look yellow, which means the chicken goodness.
Yeah, the good stuff is rendering out.
That meat looks good.
It
That
does.
looks like a hearty stock.
I would actually add the barley now.
Okay.
That's fine. But don't add both. I think we'll end up with too much.
Give that a stir. We'll see where we're at. Stir it in.
Yeah.
We pounded the steak in more to get the chicken closer. What do we say, like 50 times low and slow?
Yeah.
We weren't low enough with the chicken, so we lowered our steak a bit.
Oop.
Oop.
I did that. It's all right.
Nope, I think I did. I was tapping on there. So we lowered this a bit to get that closer to the flame, so we can keep the flames low and slow. Keep the flames lower and more coals. The chicken just needed to be closer to it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's fine.
We win.
More. Ooh, look at all that good juice. Maybe like that. Very good.
We made a thing.
Made a thing. We do things.
We got a chicken, a fire roasted chicken, tannered and spit roasted, both at the same time, and some porridge-ish thing. Let's see how they turned out.
All right.
Now it doesn't work. There. Well,
Okay.
okay. Oh, there's one. There's two.
And they appear to be cooked. Hooray! The little victories.
The legs are, oh, yeah. That carves like a drape.
Yay!
Like that. I was just gonna eat a chunk, but I guess I should share.
Oh, thanks. Cheers. That's good.
That is probably the best tasting chicken breast I've ever had. Let's try some of this. Oh, such a thick. I don't think, oh, maybe it burned a little bit.
It did a little bit. Don't scrape the burnt bits into it.
I like the burnt bits.
We'll scrape them out later.
We'll skip the scoop of everything else.
Like lava hot. It kind of reminds me of grits.
It's not dissimilar to grits, but so some of it burnt to the side and it's better.
Sound
I want
like
to
the
say
burnt bits.
maybe we'll make a video in the morning of trying to make like cakes out of this.
Yeah, we could try.
Dark meat. Oh,
I like that better.
dark meat's just the way to go.
It just has so much more flavor, and it really absorbed the salt
Mm-hmm.
in a good way.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. We used kosher salt and dill. Emphasis on the kosher salt.
Mm-hmm.
And it just with the juice and the fat that renders out, it doesn't come through as salty.
No.
It comes through as delicious.
Very good. Wish you were here to try it.
But you're not.
But dog is.
I don't want to discount the bulgur. It was very tasty. It was just very hot.
It is very hot. Well, I mean, it was boiling up to a moment ago.
It's all hot.
I'm sure it is.
Still need salt.
It does.
So we made a stock from a couple of chicken wings, the chicken spine, a couple gizzards. I don't get a lot of chicken flavor.
No,
in the wheat.
It was funny because it seemed to have, you know, when we looked at just the boiling water,
It turned yellow.
yeah, it had a lot of the chicken fat flavor in it. And I wonder if it's just because of the amount of wheat, it really just soaked it all in and spread it out.
But if it did, you'd think it would have soaked up the flavor.
I don't
It
know.
didn't seem to.
Yeah. I mean, it's even got chicken meat in there.
And there's chicken meat.
And the cabbage.
What's up to say?
I don't know. That was a winner. It took longer than we thought. We had to learn a little bit about height and heat and cooking it that way. We've done the spatchcock closer to the fire on the grill grates, and we knew about how long that would take, but raised a little bit on the spit. Took a little longer.
Now we know a lower spit, similar to grilling.
Yep.
Get it lower. The heat's not low and slow. The chicken needs to be close to the heat.
But it handled a little bit higher flame well because it wasn't so close. It didn't just catch fire.
And I'm just gonna eat this.
All right. Well, that's what we cooked it for.
Till next time.
Till next time. Cooking
Keep
in the
it out.
woods.
Cheeked it out.
Chieftain out.